Happy Friday! I know so many of you are excited that it's Friday because you have a normal 9 to 5. But I wanted to jump on, and a woman reached out to me and asked me about how to manage when she feels like people within her family are, and it's a very common question, and I hear it a lot from women, where they feel like they're on a fitness journey or they want to get started on a fitness journey, but they feel like they're being sabotaged by their spouse or significant other. And I work mostly with women, so I'm gonna kind of beat up the husbands for a second, but well, and actually not even beat up, give the women a little bit of a reality check on where your beliefs might be right now, but then also maybe a little bit calling husbands out. And then also I keep seeing this question come up on my feed because of all my fitness friends, and it's something to the effect of, does your fitness impact your relationship? And let's talk about that too. So first of all, if you are a woman who is wanting, there's actually 3 parts, and I didn't put this in the notes, but the first part would be if you have had your bottom of the shower moment, something has just bothered you enough to where you are really committed to learning how to finally get sustainable results so that you can feel comfortable in your own skin, so that you can live in a higher level of confidence, so that your physical body can maybe match the success and experience that you're having in all the other aspects of life, right? And you have a spouse that is not supportive, or is, sometimes I hear often, like I've got to check with my spouse and what have you. And it's one thing to have respect. And this may not be a popular opinion, but I've, for quite some time now, been very strong-minded. If it is something that you believe is necessary for you to live and feel at your best, then you fight for that and you do what you need to do to make it happen, regardless. Because at the end of the day, you are the one responsible for your health, for your well-being, for how you're able to show up on a daily basis. And if you know that you're at that point, because unfortunately a lot of women do wait till we get to this point, I did too, where you're just so uncomfortable in how you feel, your energy, your mood, you're short-tempered. If you're feeling all of those things and you're ready to make a change with that, it's not even realistic to be able to expect that you're going to do it on your own. And you could try all the free things and all the things, but reality is when you make an investment to yourself, you're going to be more committed to it. So if your spouse is not on board, do what you got to do, sister, to make it happen. And I'll leave that at that. But then going back to the next question is, you've made that decision, you're trying to be healthy, fit, and strong, and you feel like your significant other is sabotaging you. And a lot of times I'll hear women say, like, kind of come to me out of frustration and a little bit of anger. And I wrote a couple notes because I want to give some perspective. One, not to assume, and this is kind of in the husband's favor, but not to assume that it's intentional. And of course, I work with at this point, I work with all women. So it's not always the husband. It totally could be a husband that's trying to get fit and the wife is doing it, but I'm going to talk to our women. When the first is, if you feel like your spouse is sabotaging you, is to not take it personally. Don't assume that they're actually intentionally doing that. Because I know what I've seen over the last, decade of coaching other women is that a lot of times you get married and you're both unfit, you're both unhealthy, you both have created this lifestyle that is not in alignment with optimal health or whatever. And the woman decides that she wants to get fit, decides that she wants to lose weight, decides that she wants to feel confident and strong and change her eating habits and all the things. And reality is that, said with love and respect, that's your choice. That was not his choice. We might think that it's in his best interest, but if you got married and you were both unhealthy and you're the one that's deciding to change, you can't assume or put it on them to want to change overnight. It is only our job to control and influence to control our own choices. We can influence our spouse. And over the last decade, I've seen so many women do the right things the right way and forever change not only their lifestyle, but the legacy of their families for generations to come, because as they just led by example, their husband started eating healthier. I can't even tell you how many times, I seriously cannot even tell you how many times a woman's on a program with me and she's like, yeah, my husband just lost 20 pounds, right? Because he's eating better. So it does happen, but having this expectation that because you decided to change, they're supposed to change too is not fair. That's the bottom line. And with that, you're working and you're intentional. Maybe you're in a community with support, or you've just found a plan that you're trying really hard to follow and trying to do it on your own, whatever the case may be. You're making these efforts forward and you're expecting them to catch up. But if you're diving in, if you have the interest, if you've had that moment that is driving you to try and do differently, your spouse doesn't have that drive. Your spouse isn't looking at the same things. They aren't learning the same things. So to expect them to keep up with your habits and or convert their habits at all, or even in the same rate as you, really isn't a realistic expectation. Your energy is better served doing the inner work for yourself so that you can strengthen, so that you can get stronger. And I talk about this a lot. I've always talked about it, but a lot more lately. And that is one of the paradigm shifts that I've realized we need to make, in that just talking more about, it's not about the nutrition. It's not only about the nutrition. It's not only about the workouts. The most important work that you can do when you're trying to get healthy and fit is the inner work. Because the inner work, our thoughts and our beliefs, is actually what got you to where you are. If you're uncomfortable, unhealthy, unfit, and or just negative stinking thinking, but obviously people that come to me, it showed up for them physically. It showed up by putting weight on, right? But it actually is the weight that has been put on over the years is a outward reflection of something internal going on, right? Whether it's stinking thinking or it's just not prioritizing, it still comes back to thoughts and beliefs. And so as you're working on your thoughts and beliefs, it's really not fair to think that that spouse is going to catch up. And a lot of times it's not intentional, and your energy is better spent working on your inner work, having good communication with the spouse, but with the perception and understanding and assumption, until you know otherwise, that it's not intentional. And if there is something that, and again, I don't want to go too far down a relationship aspect, because I like, that's not for me to talk about individual people's relationships, but I've done a lot of like perspective over the years and what have you, but having like open conversations, and like if someone brings something home and you feel like it's a weakness or it's a trigger, and then you get frustrated because they brought that home. Well, did you talk to them? Did you tell them in a nice and kind way that like, hey, I'm trying really hard and I feel really tempted when these things are brought home. So could we make an agreement for a period of time, like the next 30 days, just to not have it at the house? That would be really helpful for me, right? So it's not accusatory. It's, hey, I need your help. I'm struggling with this. And it would be really awesome if we, and just make it short term, because if they feel like it's forever and always type thing, then it's going to be even harder for them to adapt to, because remember, they're not making the changes. They're not driven like you are to make the changes. So setting a short, and then, maybe revisit it 30 days from now. But first and foremost, not assuming, not coming from a place of thinking that they're out to get you. Just like ask yourself non-emotionally, did I even communicate that that's bothering me? Did I even communicate that that's a temptation to me? Those types of things. So communication, don't assume, communicate. And then also, there are instances where a spouse may be sabotaging and it's not even a conscious thing. But I have heard over the last decade in situations where the significant other does start to get a little bit insecure because the person that is working and progressing is getting healthy, fit, strong, losing a bunch of weight. And the person that hasn't kept up with the changes starts to feel like, insecure about what that means for their relationship. And, or I've talked about this before, a lot of times, even if it's not a spouse or a significant other, whether it's your friends or coworkers or just people you see kind of like as a, at events or whatever on a regular basis, a lot of times they'll be, I don't want to say aggressive, but almost like have passive aggressive comments to you about your choices and, wow, you can't do this, you can't do that, or you're eating like a rabbit again, whatever the comments may be. they're saying that because they're a lot of times feeling like, does this mean that I need to change? Or they're trying to compare you to them. They actually see and admire your progress, but if they were to accept that as truth for themselves, then they would have to start asking themselves if there's changes that they need to make and they're not ready to make it. Make sense? So when you feel like you have a spouse, that's going back to the spouse specifically, when you feel like the spouse is trying to sabotage you, first is don't assume that it's intentional. Second is communicate. And then third is just do the inner work so that you become strong, so that you can manage through the temptations and overcome. And the fourth thing is, it's really critical, one, that you get help and know what that inner work is and what you need to do. And then also being connected with people that are going to support you and encourage you and kind of get that aspect of your life and motivate you and encourage you. And something had come up too about, and I've heard this many, many times over the years is, the spouse just sees how many times they've failed. And this is going to be a really uncommon, unpopular perspective. But reality is, I think as women, what I hear is they get offended because their spouse feels like, well, you've tried that so many times. Like you've tried that 5 times and you've how is this going to be any different? And we get offended. And honestly, as a woman, when I first started hearing that, over the years from other women, I would be offended for them. And I'd be like, well, of course you could do it because I am the cheerleader, because I am the coach, because I can believe in you, 100 times over, no matter how many times you fall short or fall backwards or take 3 steps forward and 4 steps back. Like I can keep getting up with you and keep encouraging you and supporting you. So at first I would be offended by a husband that said, well, you're going to fail. Like you've already tried this 100 times, but a different perspective and now is that if you take the topic, which is super sensitive, away, if you take the emotion away, ladies, how many times have you been in a situation, whether it's a spouse or a friend or whatever the case may be, where they continually tell you that they're going to do something and then they continually do not follow through? Then on the 5th and 6th time, do you believe that they're going to follow through? Like right or wrong, if again, taking the sensitivity of the topic itself out, taking the sensitivity of course we want people to support us when we're on a health and weight loss journey. If you have struggled, which is understandable, it's, takes a process to learn the right things. But if you have struggled, if you have seen progress and results and then put the weight back on and gone back to old habits or all the things, and you've done this repeatedly over the course of time, then you're like, I could kind of understand if you look at it from a different perspective. I can understand why a husband might say, well, yeah, we've been down that road, and really not be as excited about it the 5th time or 6th time, and not be as engaged about it the 5th time or 6th time, or even, I don't agree that people should be critical, but at least not themselves believe that it's actually going to happen the 5th or 6th time. Because if they told us they were going to fix the garage 5 or 6 times and didn't fix the garage, then we wouldn't really believe it the next time they told us they were going to fix the garage. So to give you some perspective, so that not to hurt your feelings or to agree with it, because like I said, I'm the coach. I'm not as emotionally directly involved watching that process and the impact it's had on my life. Like you are investing in a coach that will believe and keep going with you, and no matter, and of course, when you get a coach, you're not going to totally fail, right? You're going to progress forward. You're going to have good days and bad days. But my point is like, you can't expect that of somebody that's been emotionally involved, which makes it even more important to then go to an outside source, right? And then the last question was, does fitness impact your relationship? 100%. Like anyone that does not think that fitness and your own well-being and health impacts your relationship, like I'm going to tell you, you're lying to yourself. Like, so with love and respect as always, but you aren't understanding, and maybe you just don't know that it is impacting your relationship. So this is why. It's not about like the perfect body image or anything like that. You know that I'm not about that. I'm about you being the next best version of yourself, because I believe that every single person is created on purpose for a greater purpose. And in order to give that and experience that for yourself and enjoy everyday life, health and fitness is the foundation of that. And I believe as a believer that we are often distracted and discouraged by our physical health and fitness and the way our body moves and all that kind of stuff, because it is the easiest, what is so seemingly small, to keep us distracted from other aspects of life, from being able to live our best and give our best and experience the fullest, because we're constantly distracted. So the reason that being fit shows up in your relationship is because it impacts your confidence. A woman that feels uncomfortable in her own skin and doesn't like how her body moves is not going to show up in her marriage the same as a woman that's like, I am proud and I got it going on, right? And because they put in the work to make it happen, not in a prideful, bad way. And your energy is totally different when you're healthy and fit. Your mood is totally different. Nutrition has a direct impact. And anybody that's telling you that you can eat all the things and feel your breast, it's like you have to figure out how to create a plan that isn't crazy restricted deprivation. Yes, you can have whatever your favorites are now in moderation, but learning how to moderate and how to make it work and how to make it all come together. You have to learn that in order for you to have maximized energy, in order for you to have that confidence and stamina, in order for you to have the level of attraction that you can and should have with your significant other. And just like anything else, just like when I talk about health and fitness and, with high achieving women, if we feel a lot of times high achievers will have a challenge maybe with their weight, but they've got everything else going together. Like they feel like they're on top of it with their homeschooling. They feel like they're on top of it with their kids, or they feel like they're on top of it in their business or on top of it in the corporate environment. But their battle is over here in their health, physical fitness, and all the things. And so it's kind of like the thorn in their side, right? And they don't realize until they start getting true progress and true health, how much this has impacted this. Because if all of this is like dialed in and functioning like at high levels, and you really feel confident in your success in that area, success as you define it, right? If all of that is dialed in, but you're struggling over here, that means that when you level this up, all of these things level up too. It means you've got more in you. The same is true for our relationships. So if you are not at your best physically, if you're not fit, if you are eating junk food or, not getting movement in and not working out all the things or what have you, and feeling uncomfortable in your own skin, whatever the case may be, but you do feel like you've got a good marriage and good relationship, that's awesome. That is super awesome. But that means that when you level this up, your relationship is going to get even better. It's just a fact. So yes, it 100% matters. All right. Tangent, not tangent. Fired up is the word I meant to use, but said with love and respect. If you feel like you're being sabotaged, do your internal work. I'm going to recap real quick and talk about what we talked about in a very fast, like rocket form, right? So again, first of all, if you have a spouse that does not support you investing in yourself, you make it work. Like, you do whatever you need to do. What I want to say is you do it anyway, because you have got to take care of yourself, period. And that means mental, physically, and you shouldn't expect yourself to be able to do it alone. That's just lame thought. Like, we are created to be in community. You could struggle for the next 5 years and continue to try and do it on your own like you have the last 5 years, or you can make an investment in yourself, get a coach, get a community, get a program. Of course, I want you to work with me if you're the right fit, if you're the right type of woman. I'm not for everybody, and that's okay. And vice versa. I don't work with everybody. So my point is, though, do something. Invest in yourself. Make it happen. If you feel like you're somewhere in the journey, or you have a husband or a spouse or a friend or family member or whatever that tries to sabotage you, remember or make the assumption that, one, it's not intentional. You decided to change. They did not, right? Two, make sure that you're communicating with love and kindness. Like, hey, I could really use your help with this. And, address whatever their insecurities might be. Like, hey, I know that you might feel like this is like, oh, we're down this road again or whatever, but it would just really help me if just for like the next 30 days, right? And then you can revisit the conversation in 30 days, or chances are 30 days without having stuff in your house, as an example, will give you enough separation so that you're stronger, and maybe they can do what they want and you'll feel better about it. You'll feel more in control because you'll have seen results and you'll have seen how your hard work is paying off. Do the internal work. I already talked about that. And then last but not least, does your fitness impact your relationship? Yes, because your fitness and your well-being affects your confidence, your energy, your stamina, your focus, your mood, how you show up on every day. And it definitely impacts all of the above. All right, guys, love you. If you have any questions, comments, if you watch live, type live below. If you're watching it later, thanks for hanging out and listening all the way in. Please watch replay so I know who's engaging. And if you have any questions, I know it's a sensitive topic, so if you're not comfortable commenting below, you can message me. Anytime any of you guys have questions, that's where a lot of these videos come from, is for your guys' private messages. So love you guys. Bye.